Okay. So in last class, we have seen that we created an object called Abhinav. Okay. And we are calling a method called so. So what output we'll get? So we'll get a output. 1 second. So we'll get a output. What we have assigned here, 1, 2, 3, CID, right? And name Abhinav Kumar, right? So when you call this method, Abhinav x dot so, we'll got 1, 2, 3 and Abhinav Kumar, right? Okay. So now we'll see here. Oh, let me take a new set. Okay. So now what happened when you create this object? So what actually happened when you execute this line? Customer Abhinav x equal to new customer. This line. Okay. So we'll see what exactly happened. So when this line execute, customer, right? Abhinav x, right? Equal to new customer. Okay. Okay. So in that one, the first thing happen, the first thing, right? In memory, which type of variable this is? Abhinav x, reference type, right? So what will happen? A memory block will get allocated with 8 byte, right? What is the default value? Null. What is the name of this variable? ABHINAVX, right? Acha. So the first step, allocate 8 byte of memory for the reference variable and initialize with null. Correct? This is the first step when this line got executed. What is the second step? Second step JVM will do, JVM verifies whether the class is loaded or not. Okay, which class? This customer class is loaded or not. If not loaded, then it's load and initialize the class. It will check where? It will check in the memory. 1 second. Inside the JVM, the class is loaded or not. Okay. If class is loaded, then fine. If class is not loaded, then it's load the class and initialize the class. Okay. While loading the class, it's allocate the memory for a static variable. Okay. Remember, in second step, a static variable memory allocation. We'll read this point. Okay. Okay. And initialize with the default value. So let us assume if you are having any static variable inside a class, so that will get initialized with the default value. Okay. Okay. What is the third step? Okay. The third step is create an object and allocate the memory for instance variable of the class. Okay. So create an object. Okay. So let us assume now Abhinav x is there. So here in third step, he will create the object. Okay. So in object, how many? Okay. So this is object. Let us assume this object is having memory address XYZ992. Okay. Sorry, not XYZ, never be a memory address. Okay. So AEF921. Let us assume this is a memory address. Okay. Okay. So how many variables we have? 1, 2, 3. This is what is the size of int? 4 byte. What is the size of string? 8 byte. What is the size of long? What is the size of long?
8 byte.
Others?
8 byte भैया.
Confirm 8 byte or 4 byte? Manikandan? Manikandan in the call?
Yeah, size of long would be 8 by 8, I think. Hello?
Yeah, tell me. What is
Yeah, size of,
what is the size of the long?
yeah, it's 8 by 8.
What is the default value?
Default value is 0.
Okay. So now what happened? This integer, string and long, three type of variable we have. Okay. So one memory will get allocated and each variable will occupy their respective state. Right? So what is the first one? Whatever is string, it will go null. Okay. Long will go 0.0. Okay. And one more we have, what we have, integer, right? Integer will go 0. Right? So for
0.
three property, inside that memory, we will allocate a size for string, name, CID, and one is phone number, I think, right? Name, customer ID, and phone number. Three, for these three variable, the memory allocation will happen and default value will get initialized. Okay, clear? So now here references get created. Here actual object got created. Now what is the next step? The fourth step. Okay, the fourth step is address of newly created object will be assigned to the reference variable. So newly created object address is what? This one. Okay. Reference variable is this one. So what is the final output? The final output look like. So here we have 8 byte. Okay. Which is, what is the memory allocation? AEF921. Okay. What is the name of this object? Abhinav X. Right. And then we have this 3. So in the fourth step, address of newly created object will get mapped to the reference variable. Okay. And now here we have null 0.0. Okay. Clear? And this is the memory AEF921, which is pointing here. So this is the fourth step. Okay. Now in that when this line get executed, right? Usually JVM follow this four step. It will first create a reference variable with default value 8 byte. Then it will check class is loaded or not. If class is not loaded, it will load the class and it will check is there any static variable is there. If a static variable is there, it will assign a default value to a static variable. Then come here. Okay. Now it will create an object. Okay. Now this object will have an address. In fourth step, this address will get mapped to the variable that we created Abhinav X. So now our object is ready. Our object, Abhinav X is holding our object. Okay. What is the total memory of this object? So how you can calculate the 8 byte and each individual. This is 8 byte. This is 8 byte, 4 byte. 16 for 16 for how much? 16 for 20, right? So total size is 28 byte. Okay. So this Abhinav size is 28 byte. Clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So now what we have learned here, we have learned what is class, right? And what class and all contain. And next we learn what is object and how to create an object. So you all are clear about creating an object, right? A basic syntax clear or not?
Yeah, ma'am. Please.
Okay. 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 So now what we'll do is we'll type one or two program and then we'll again what we call, one second, save this my screen. Next up, one second. I'll open my IntelliJ ID. We'll type some program and then we'll go to variables. Okay, so this basic program, right? So you guys also look for these programs and you can update. Okay, in the respective classes and all, you can update the code. Okay. Okay, let me start from here. Class name, class name, class object example. Okay, so as initially I have told you guys, right? Whatever public class will be there, the same name the file is going to be, right? And then we'll have a main inside this. 1 second. Okay, so now forget about that. I'm creating a class called customer. Okay. Okay. So now customer will have a property called int CID. Okay. String name and long phone, right? This three property. Okay. So now we'll have one method called so. So basically when we call this method task is to print everything, whatever data this, whatever, let's assume when you call this method, it will print the value of CID, name and phone number. So we'll type like this, CID equal to plus CID. Okay. Let me copy this 3 times. It would be easy to understand. Okay. Okay. So now here we have name and here we have phone and then here we are having phone, now name. Okay. So now we have printed all these three properties. Okay. So the basic right now we have learned about how to create an object. So let me create a first object of this. Okay, customer first object. So I've created in Notepad, I've created Avino X equal to new customer. Okay. Okay. Let me print Avino X. Okay. So right now we have not assigned any value. We have just created. So what happens? So Avino X reference will get created, which will have null value initially with 8 byte of memory. It will occupy 8 byte of memory, and then a object will get created which have three properties: CID, name, and phone number. Okay, each will occupy their respective memory size. Okay, let's assume if int will occupy 4. If you're having string 8 byte long, then 8 byte, then it will get initialized with the default value. So CID int is having 0, string is having null, long is having also 0, right? So what I'm doing, I'm just creating an object. This is a way to create an object. In similar fashion, you can create a multiple object. Customer Rohan. Okay. So new customer. So like that, you can create hundreds of objects. Okay. Until your memory supports. Okay. So let me print this. So right now we are not passing anything. We are not assigning any value. So that is the reason it will print. 1 second. What is a GNA record management prohibited? Okay. 1 second. One second. Okay, so let me run this program. Okay, so I'm getting this output. Okay, this out dot production. This is my object name. This is my class name, and then there is a memory address. Okay, so reason is to print this one, right? We'll talk about that later. So firstly, let me. X, and that we have to because I'm printing object, that is the reason I'm getting the class name at the rate their memory address. Now I'm calling this method called so. Okay, we'll see. Okay, directly call that one. Okay. So what output I'm getting? CID equal to 0, name equal to null, phone equal to 0. Okay. So let do the same thing for Rohan. Okay. Rohan dot. So
Hello?
yes.
Sorry, while you are printing the Abhinav that show, so why it is attacking some error before you're
Okay.
using system.out.println?
No, that is different reason. So that is because in system.out.println, see the so is return type is void, right? So it's not returning anything. But when you print something, like when you pass this, what do we call? Inside system.out.println, when you call the method, right? System.print.ln and println method need a string. Okay, if you are not returning anything, then it is not able to print, right? Because println is also a method, so it's need a parameter. Okay, so we'll talk about that when we talk about system.out.println, what is void, what is in return type of method and all, we'll read, then we'll talk about it. Right now just we have to see that how to call a method. So we are calling a methods, and by default what it's going to print. Okay.
Yeah, okay, sure.
Okay, so we'll talk about that return types and all, anyhow we are going to read. Okay. So CID equal to 0. So same thing for everyone, right? Same thing like CID are 0 because we are assigning a default value. Okay, let me do one thing. Let me assign a name. Okay. So Abhinav X dot name. Okay, so name let me assign. So ABHA Abhinav Kumar Singh. Okay. So like that we can assign, but usually it's a learning phase. So what we are doing, we can directly access this property, right? Or state or a data member, and you can assign a value. Okay, now we'll see when you print what will happen. So other all these are default value. So only the name is Abhinav Kumar Singh. Okay, now do the same thing for Rohan. Okay, so Rohan dot name equal to Rohan. Okay, and let's print. So now we have two objects. Okay, so now for Rohan it's coming Rohan, for Abhinav it's coming Abhinav. So till here you guys understand, right? How we can create an object and how you can call a method. This thing anyhow we will talk. Only thing that you have got to focus about this two things, two lines. This is clear to you all? Okay. So now today we'll also learn, because we are just starting. You don't know. I am creating this class. I am keeping this one, and I'm keeping name. I'm keeping phone. I'm keeping method. So you will say what and else we can keep. Can I write here for loop? If I'm writing, what will happen? Is it allowed or not? Right? If not allowed, why it's not allowed? Right? So why it's not allowed? Okay, is there any rule like what and all is allowed and what is not allowed? So we'll see that. Okay. So today we'll learn member of class. Okay. So till here it's clear to you all, right?
Yeah, bhai.
Okay. Okay, my notepad is visible to you all.
Yes, bhai.
Let me start this. Okay. Okay. So now we'll learn about member of class. Okay. Nimi, can you mute? So member of class. Okay. So basic, the idea is we all should know what and alls we can keep in class and what and all are not allowed. Okay. Then only we can proceed further, right? Okay. So let assume this is class. You define a class called a student. It's curly braces open and curly braces close. So what we'll talk is what we can keep inside this block and what not. Okay. So what we can keep and what not. What is the first thing that we can keep? Variables. So variables you can define inside a class. Okay. Second thing, blocks. Blocks also you can define inside a class. Third thing, constructor. Fourth, methods. Fifth, inner class. So what 5 things that is allowed inside a class? If anyone asks you, there are 5 things that allowed inside a class is variable, blocks, constructor, method, and inner class. Is there any mention of loop, switch statement inside a class? No, right? So directly you cannot have a loop, you cannot have a conditional statement, you cannot have a what we call any kind of definition you cannot place directly inside a class. Okay, so what and all are allowed? So whatever mentioned here, only these things are allowed. Okay, inside method you can have loop, you can have conditional statement and all, that is different thing. But if someone say what else is allowed inside a class, you will say variable, blocks, constructor, methods, and inner class. Clear to you all?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So now we know that okay, this 5 allowed. Now what we'll do, we'll visit each one, like variable, what type of variable and all allowed. Blocks, what is blocks? What type of blocks are allowed? Constructor, what is constructor? What and all types of constructor allowed? Method, how to write a method, what and all type of method are allowed, and how we can write a method. Then inner class. Once we finish the inner class, our basic Java is finished. Okay, then we'll move to advanced core Java concept. Okay, so now we'll start with variables. Okay, so variables already you guys have, based on data type, you know that, right? How to define a variables. Static variable, you know, or no, not, you don't know, right? Okay, we'll see. So variables. Okay, so what is variable? So variable are container. What it will do? Container which holds data, right? Okay, how much memory it's going to take? So based on the data type, it is going to occupy a memory. When memory will be get allocated to variable? At the time of execution. Okay, acha. So value of variable, right, can be changed multiple times during the program execution. Value of variable can change multiple time during program execution. Clear to you all, right? Okay, so if anyhow, like you guys know what is variable and all, right? So basic funda is, right now the main focus is what and all type of variable that is allowed, right, in Java. So based on data type, there are two type of variable, right? Based on data type. Okay, like based on location, there are two type of Indians: North Indian, South Indian. Like based on religion, there are five type or six type of Indians, like Christian, Hindu, Muslim, XYZ, right? Based on caste, there are different type, right? Based on economic status, there are different types of different category and all. So similarly, variables are also having a similar category based on data type. So based on data type, there are two. One is primitive, second is reference. You remember, right? So these are based on data type. Okay, so now that we are going to learn is, there are two type of variable based on how we are declaring it. Based on declaration. Okay, so let's take an example. I am having a class, a student. Okay, and now I am having a variable called int roll, right? Okay, and then I'm having static int bus number. Bus number means, let assume he have allocated one bus, so that is the name. Okay, and then I have static string, let assume okay, message, msg, some message and all are there for students. Okay, so now if you see here, based on declaration, there are two type of variables we have. One is instance variable. What is instance variable? A variable, okay, a variable which is directly defined inside a variable which is directly defined inside the class. Which variable is directly inside the class? This is also, this is also, this is also, right? They're directly inside this scope, okay, inside this area directly. Not is inside a student class there is one more method, inside that it got defined, not like that, okay. So these are directly inside a class, so that is the reason we call it instance variable. Instance variable, okay. So now this second line, right, this one is instance variable. What about this? So this is not instance variable, this is static variable. Why? Because we are using a static keyword before that variable declaration, so we call it static variable, okay. Clear? Okay. A static variable. Now we are having two type of static variable. This is primitive static variable, or this is reference type. String is which type? Reference type. So reference static variable. So reference static variable. Okay. Is visible?
No way.
हाँ भैया
Sorry. Okay. So this is called static variable. So this is because this is primitive data type, right? Int is a primitive data type, to call it primitive static variable, or you can also call it static variable. That is fine. This is reference static because string is a reference type, so we call it reference static variable. Okay. So if someone asks you, how many types of variable you have, so you can say based on data type there are two type, based on declaration also there are two type, okay. The one is instance variable. So they will ask, what is instance variable? A variable which will directly declare inside a class is known as instance variable. What is static variable? A variable which is which use a keyword called static as known as static variable, okay. What is static instance variable? So a static variable which will directly declare inside a class, okay. A static variable never be an instance variable, okay. It's a common to all the instance, so that we'll talk, okay. Now, so now we'll talk about instance variable. So best there are two type of variable which can be declared inside the class directly. What and all? The first one instance and second is static variable. So now we'll talk about instance variable. Which variable we are going to talk about? Instance variable. Clear? Okay. So what is instance variable? A variable defined inside the class without using a static modifier are called as instance variable. Instance variable are also called as non-static variable. Okay. So what is instance variable? When you declare a variable without using a static keyword within a class, directly within a class, are known as instance variable. Okay. What about the memory allocation? How the memory allocation will happen to instance variable? So memory will be allocated for instance variable at the time of creating an object. So when we are creating the object, at that time when object got created, the memory will get allocated to instance variable. In top of the example, we have seen that, right? See this one, right? So this is reference when instance variable got the memory when object get created. So here is object get created. Now in this line, or in this line, object is getting mapped to amino X. Okay, clear. Okay, okay. So now let me declare. You guys know that what is instance variable, but still, just for sake of example, class student string name. So here, which one is the instance variable? This one. The name is a instance variable. Clear to you all? If someone asks you what is instance variable, and you can answer, right? Okay. So because directly I am declaring inside. So this is called instance variable. Okay, we'll talk about static variable. Static variable. Okay. So what is static variable? The first question we should answer is a variable defined in the class using static modifier are called as static variable. So what does mean? So let's take an example. I have a class called a student. Okay. Inside that, I'm having a variable called static int role. Okay. Or a static string school name. Okay. So these variables, right? These are known as static variable. So simple. If you not use static keyword, it is instance variable. If you use static keyword, it is static variable. A static variable are also called as class variable. So what we call it? Class variable. Okay, clear? Okay. Memory will be allocated for static variable at the time of loading the class. You remember when I was explaining this memory allocation, right? So here what is happening? When first it will check the class is loaded or not into the memory, right? If class is not loaded, it will load the class and a static variable memory allocation will happen, and then instance variable memory allocation will happen. Clear? So that is the reason it's like memory will be allocated for static variable at the time of loading of the class. Okay, so we'll see what is class loading, what is class loader on later, but right now you have to remember the static variable memory allocation happen prior to instance variable. Okay, okay. So now 1 second. Okay, variable, we will practice here variable example. Okay, so there will be no confusion. So I'm taking an example called variable example, class called variable example, which is having a main method. Okay, forget about that. Let's create a class, a student. So how we can create a class? By using class keyword, right? And then we can have a variable. So I have a string name, a student name. Okay, int role static in pin code. Okay, sorry. So what I'm using a static keyword. So again pin code. Clear? Okay. So now tell me one thing. Name is which type of variable? This name is which type of variable?
String type.
It's based on data type. It's a string type. But based on declaration, which type of variable it is? Which type of variable? It's based on declaration. So where I am declaring? I'm declaring directly within the class scope. So we call it instance variable. And what about role? Role is instance variable, or which type of variable it is? The role. Guys. Poonam,
Yeah, bhaiya.
role, this variable, which type of variable it is? Instance variable, static, or static variable? It's a
Role is
instance variable.
static variable, bhaiya.
How a static variable?
Instance.
How static? Role, I'm talking about role, not pin code.
Oh, okay.
So it's a instance variable. So why? Because it's directly getting declared within the class scope and it's not using a static keyword, right? So that is the reason this variable is static variable. Okay. Clear to you all? Okay. So tell me which one is the static variable in these three?
Pin code.
Pin code, right? Why? Because we are using a static keyword before pin code. Okay. Clear to you all?
Yeah, it's clear, sir.
Okay. So now we'll see some example. Okay, how static variable and all will work, and then we'll say. So let assume I'm creating a object of a student. Okay, obj equal to new student. Okay. So now obj dot name, right? So let assume I can, how I can access instance variable directly, we can access by object reference. Okay. So let me, I'm accessing this one, Avinav. Okay. This is the first thing. This is clear to you all, right? Okay. So let me do one thing. Let me print this one here. Obj dot name. You guys have to guess the output. Okay. Obj dot name. So what will the output for this? And what will be the output for this? Tell me. So now I created student, right? In the last class, I have explained that how that memory allocation happened, and the default value will get initialized assigned to this. So what is the default value for reference type?
Null.
What is the default value for this int reference type?
0.
What is the default value for this static int? Anyhow, this is 0, right? So
0. Yeah.
this is 0. Okay. So now what I am doing, I just created an object. Okay. So whatever I explained in the last class, when you create the object, the memory will get allocated and default value will get initialized, right? And when you access this, so what you will get here?
Null value.
Null. Why? Because this default value is null. And then what I'm doing, I'm with the object reference, I can call instance variable. I can assign a value to that, right? Which is clear to you all. So I'm just calling obj.name and I'm just printing that one. So what it will print here? It will print Avinav, right? Which is clear. Okay. Okay. Now it's out. What I'm doing is I want to print a pin code. Okay. So what I'm doing, obj.pin code. So what the output will get?
0.
0.
Okay, 0. We'll see. Okay. Okay. Let assume what I'm doing here. What is the class name? My class name is a student, right? Dot. What is pin code? Pin code is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
We can we access the static variable inside through an object?
Inside?
Through an object?
Yes, we can access static variable by 3 ways. One is directly by class, second directly by object, and third is with null reference also we can access. Okay. Basically
Okay, sir.
basically when you try to access through object, it is you are accessing through object, but compiler is replacing that object with the class. Okay. So basically compiler is calling that pin code with the help of class name itself. Okay.
Okay.
So that is the reason first I have used object, and second while assigning I'm using this. Okay. and then we'll print again with the help of object, or directly also with the class name also you can do that. Okay. Okay, so let me check what output I'm going to get. Correct. So now default value for pin code is 0, right? So the basic thing, okay. Now, as we discussed, right, earlier, like memory allocation for static variable happen before the object creation. So let me do one thing. Let me print this statement, this one, pin code here, and we'll see what output I will get. So we'll use class name here because object I have not created, right? So I cannot use object. What is the class name? Class name is a student. Okay, so let me check what we are getting. The first one. So what we got? 0. So it's like before on the once the class is loaded, right? The static variable memory got allocated. Clear to you all? Right? So
Yes, sir.
anyhow, we are having a detailed chapter on static variables and all, and it's like what is static method, how to access what is static variable and how to access, and not every rules and regulation that will follow. Okay. Okay, so now as I said, right, so this seems clear to you all, right? Or is it any confusing, right? The basic idea to discuss this, how to what is instance variable, what is static variable, and how we can access these two. Okay, so that is clear, right? Now we'll move ahead and we'll see blocks. You remember when I was explaining what and all inside a class, right? So we can have instance variable, static variables, and then this is called block. Okay, so there are two type of block. Okay, one is static block, another one is instance block. Clear? So we'll see here. So how this block got executed. So how variable, like we already discussed about variables, like any instance variable which have static keyword as a prefix are known as static variable, and without static prefix it's called instance variable, but it should be a scope of the class. Let assume inside this block, right, I have declare here, let me call it, this is called instance block. What we are calling instance block, so call it instance block. Okay, and this we call, let me use a static keyword, this we call static block, so we call it SB. Okay, let me execute the program. So which one first got executed? A static block. Will you see here? I will type also. And then static variable, this part, where it is, where obj.name here. Like I'm directly accessing this. So I'm just maintaining the order so that you have then instance block. Okay, and then other than that. So we have two types of block. Okay, one is called instance block, another one is called static block. Okay, so what is the use of block? So if you want to execute a set of instruction, right, let assume you want to do anything, any logic and all you want to write here, you can write it over here. Okay, it will maintain the order of execution, like a static block will get executed first and then instance block will get executed. So these three things that you have to remember when you are talking about blocks. So when I talk about class, what and all class can contain variables and blocks. So now we are going through the blocks. Blocks is a set of instruction defined in curly braces. So see, so here I have instruction and define, and we are within the class. So if you declare any variable string a, okay, so this will call, what we call it? We call it local variable. What we call it? We call it local variable. Why? Because it's not directly inside this, and neither it's having a static keyword. So it's not coming directly inside the student class, it's coming inside a student class but within a block. So we call it local variable. Okay. So block doesn't have any name, you see. So it's not like we can invoke. Okay, we cannot invoke blocks. So who will invoke block? The JVM will invoke. Okay, JVM will invoke the blocks inside the class. Whatever blocks you have, that JVM will invoke. Okay, now if you define any how variable, like when you define a variable directly within a class, we call it instance variable. Similarly, when you define a block directly within a class scope, we call as instance block. What we call it? Initialization block or instance block. Okay, initialization or instance block. Okay, when you use a static, we call it static block. Okay, so basically there are two types of block: instance block and static block. Clear to you all, or any doubt?
So far, I understandable.
So it's pretty like we will go step by step. So right now we have to understand, okay, what is instance variable? So we are clear. What is static variable? We are clear. What is blocks? So blocks, when you whatever code you place within a curly braces, right, which doesn't have name, are known as block. So when you place a block directly within the class scope is called as initialization block or instance block. Similar fashion, if you use static keyword before, like when you use a static keyword before the blocks, those blocks are known as static blocks. Clear?
Yeah, clear, sir.
Yes. So now here we can let assume we want to have a certain code, right, in a static block. So what will happen? So static block will be invoked by the JVM automatically after initialization of the class. So once the class got initialized, a static block will get executed. Okay, so just class initialization is done and a static block. So any code that you want to execute at the time of class loading is done, right, or class initialization is done, at that time, after that, just after that, you want to execute a certain piece of code or you want to print something, you can use static. Clear? Okay, so we'll see some example. Okay, and then we'll proceed further. So I'm taking example of this int role. Okay, just focus on this role. I'm assigning a value to role 10. Okay, now I am having here also int role equal to 50. Okay, okay. Now see, in here we can have a note int role equal to 60. Okay, so now see, in instance label we have assigned 10 to role. In this block we assign role 50. In a static block we assign role 60, right? Okay, let me print here role. Okay, let me print here role. Okay, one more thing. One second. Now we have assigned 10, right? So obj, let me print here role. Okay, now you guys have to tell me what output will get first. Okay, let me comment this out so you guys will not get confused. Okay, obj name and all, everything, comment it out, pin code and all. So now I am creating an object. I am calling obj.role, right? And then I am having a local variable. I'm having a local variable. I'm just printing. Okay, this local variable, I'm printing this local variable. Okay, here also we are having role, which is called local variable. Okay. So order of output that we are going to discuss. So first what got printed? SB60. Remember this? Static block. So as I said, after initialization of class, which one will get executed first? Static block. And then instance block. And then after that, your object creation happen and you can call this. Right? So 60, 50 and 10. Okay. Okay. So now let's assume it's future anyhow we'll discuss. So this role and this role, how we can differ. So let assume in your house, right? You are having a Amit, or any name like Priya. Okay, a Priya name girl working in your house, and one more Priya is there, which is also working in a society. So when you call Priya, which Priya will respond first to you? Who is near to you? Who is in your scope first, right? So always when you directly call with the variable name, the local variable will get first preference. If you want to call instance variable, you have to use this keyword. You have to reference to this. Otherwise, if you have same name like instance variable also having role and local variable also having role, then it will be when you directly call by name, the local variable will get called. Okay, that is the one thing. Second thing, inside a class scope, you cannot define another role. Okay, see, you cannot duplicate the variable name. Okay, clear to you all?
Yes, sir.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so you guys are able to understand or not?
Yeah, ma'am.
If someone asks,
Yeah, yes, sir.
yeah, if someone asks you what is static variable, sorry, what is static block, what is non-static block, so you can answer, right? Okay, so anyhow, we'll see the theory of blocks, so that we can record, and then we'll move to local variable and all. Okay, we'll see. Okay, we'll take one more example, and then we'll go ahead. So pin code. Okay, so we know that first static block will get executed, then instance block will get executed, and then normal roll number like object get created, and then we will get output 10. Okay, now what about this pin code? What if I make it, let make this one static, and then what will happen? Okay, so let me do this. A student pin code, create a full pin code. Okay, so let me add here 30. Okay, so now you see that I am having a static pin code. Let's have one more here, local pin code in a static block. Okay, equal to 100. What will happen? So here I have pin code 100. Here I have 30. Let me comment this out so no confusion. Okay. Okay. Here anyhow we cannot have. Okay. One more thing. So what is saying modifier static is not allowed. So static modifier or static keyword you cannot use in non-static area. Okay, like instance block and all, you cannot use static keywords. But that is different thing. So here you have pin code static in 30, and then again I am having a pin code. Let me print this pin code here. I will see which one will get printed first. Okay. Cannot find variable or type of students. Sorry. Here I supposed to have pin code. Let me add it here. Pin from where we are. Okay. Main. Okay. So let me run this. So what is happening? SB100 is getting printed. So first static block, then 30, which is 30 here. Static in 30 we are done, and we are calling this one, right? This. Then instance block, then 13 pin main. This one, right? That we have assigned or we are calling again. So basic thing, a static block will executed first, and then a static variable mapped, and then instance block. So this is the flow of execution. Okay. Clear to you all, right? We'll see the theoretical part of this. The static variables and non-static variables are done. Okay. So we'll see about all about blocks. So what is blocks? Just for sake of notes and all. 1 second. Okay. So what is block? So block is a set of instructions defined within curly braces. So what is this? Set of instruction. This is the first point. So a set of instruction defined within curly braces. Okay. Second point, does not have name, right? Third point, who will invoke blocks? JVM. JVM is Java Virtual Machine will invoke blocks automatically. The fourth point, the blocks, let's assume you are having a class, a student. This curly braces open, this curly braces close. So this is the block. So if you define a block, system.out.println initialization block, we call it initialization block. Clear? So fourth point. So blocks defined inside the class directly as member are called as initialization block. Clear to you all? Okay. Now, so this is our fourth point. Now the fifth point. How many types of blocks we have? We have
2 types.
2 types. The first one, instance block. The second one,
Static block.
static block. Very good. Okay. So now, what is instance block? In definition already we see that a block defined inside the class directly without using a static keyword are known as instance block. When it will get invoked? So we'll talk about instance block. So when it will get, only point that you have to note down. Okay. Instance block will be invoked by JVM automatically after, this is the main point, after initializing the object. Okay. So instance block, when it will get executed? Once the object got initialized. So when object will get initialized, you remember? So let's assume this is customer, which is having address 1 2 3 4 5, right? And here the object got created with respective memory, let us 0, null, 0, and which is having one memory address 9234. This memory address will get mapped to it later on. So when this part completed, after that instance block will get executed. Okay, so this is the first step, this is the second step, this is the third step, and this mapping is after this third step, which is called fourth step. Okay, so if you see the video, you can understand. So you get the clear idea about initialization block, right? So where to define, when it will get executed, right? It doesn't have name. Clear to you all? Okay, so now we'll move to static block. Okay, what is static block? A block defined inside a class directly with the static modifier is called as a static initialization block. So let's assume I'm having a class called a student. I am using a static keyword, static curly brace open, curly brace close, system.out.println, static initialization block. So we call it static initialization block. Okay, when it will get executed? So instance block will get executed after initialization of the object, but a static block will get invoked after initialization of the class. Clear to you all? Blocks are
Yes, sir.
right. So right now we have completed anyhow, like static method, static variable, we'll go how to access and all in deeply in respective chapter. Right now we're talking about what and all we can have a class. In respect of that, we are going through these topics. Okay, so static block, instance block, static variable, instance variable, clear to you all, where to define, when to define, and what is the definition and all is clear, right? Okay.